I mean, once I knew that I wasn't going to the NBA.
94.
I knew before that. I knew before that. But, you know, I wanted to write. And I didn't do well in school. And as a matter of fact, you know, I tried when I was still in school to get into this theater program. They turned me down. I couldn't get in as a playwright. So I said, well, fuck it, I'll just write my own plays. And so the first one I wrote, second or third one I wrote, became a big off-Broadway hit. It's called Lusting After Peppino's Wife. It plays all over the world now. But I still, at the time, was driving a taxi a few nights a week. I had 2 little kids, make ends meet. You weren't making much money as a playwright. And I used to pull up to the theater district off Broadway, uptown, when I knew plays were being let out, about 9:30, 9:45, because people get out, get in the cab. So this woman comes out of the theater where my show is playing, holding the program. She gets in the back of my cab. I start driving to her where she wants to go, and I say, did you just see that play? She said, yeah, I did. I said, what'd you think? She said, oh, I loved it. I thought it was great. I said, what'd you think of the writing? Because, like, all cab drivers ask those questions. And she said, oh, my God, I loved it. It was so funny. It was so... And I said, well, I wrote it. She, what? So she looks down at the program, at the name, and then looks at the license and goes, what went wrong in your life?
Damn.
I said, we don't have that much time. But, you know, I'm not making much money anyway. So she said, well, my husband has this show that just came on the air last year, and you would be wonderful writing for it. I said, yeah, lady, sure. And she said, maybe you've heard of it. It was Seinfeld.
Damn.
And I said, well, yeah, I heard of it. And my mother, who was like part witch, I think, said to me a few years before that, without any indication, she said, you're going to end up writing for that show. And I said,
wow.
What? It's like, okay, Mom, take the medicine and like sit for a while. It's like,
damn, your mom was a straight manifester.
And so 6 months after that cab ride, I'm out here. And I'm on that show. It was the first TV job I ever had, which is...
How'd the transition go, though? Like, after you let her out the cab, like, how'd you even...
What happened was...
You were like, yeah, right? Like,
she took my information.
Okay.
I didn't think anything of it. And then what she did was she called me a few months later and said, I got you a pilot deal. I said, I don't fly planes. What are you talking about? She said, no, a television pilot. I didn't even know what the term meant.
Wow.
I didn't have a clue. I said, what? What is that? She said, I got you a deal with Fox. I said, Fox, the network? And she said, and 20th Century Fox, the studio. I didn't know what the fuck she was talking about.
She's a godsend here.
I mean, and she said, I got you this. And so we go and do this pilot, and it didn't get picked up. But I was going home. I was calling it a day, and she said, no, you're not leaving. She said, and then she brought Larry in.
Wait a minute. So Larry David was her husband?
Yeah, was her husband.
Oh, wow.
Shit.
Larry David was her husband. Oh, I didn't even tell that part.
No. Yeah, that part is
little important to the story.
Yeah. She said, my husband has a show on the air. Maybe you've heard of it, Seinfeld. And she said, oh, his name is Larry David. I don't know who he was.
Right.
And then when I started to ask around, people used to say, well, he was this failed stand-up comic who used to get into fights with the audience when they didn't like respond to his material. Like,
you can see him doing that too.
Yeah. They're all, and that's how Curb Your Enthusiasm started. If you watch the initial episode of it, it was a special about him going back and trying stand-up again.
I remember that. Yeah. I watched all the Curb Your Enthusiasm, but I did see that special that they started the show with. Yeah.
Years ago. So anyway, I'm out there, and now
Larry comes in the room.
And I don't even think he wanted me there, but his wife like pushed me in there. And not only that, she said, I'm getting you an agent too. This is the story I was telling you.
Right.
Get you an agent too. And I said, okay, I need an agent? And she said, yeah, you need an agent. And so she introduces me to this young, aggressive agent named Ari Emanuel.
Wow.
And he said, all right, I'm going to work with you. And it's like the whole thing was just like kind of nuts because it happened.
And he's the biggest agent in the world.
He's more than an agent. He's the king of Hollywood.
Is that who they based the character Ari on in Entourage?
Yeah.
And by the way, they nailed it.
Yeah. So I mean, so basically Ari.
Jeremy Piven, he nailed that. I mean, the voice, the cadence, the
He's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite characters.
For sure.
Jeremy Piven's character in there made that show. If you watched
Ari behind the scenes, not his public persona where you see him now, where he's all dignified and everything, but if you had seen him back then, he nailed it. I mean, he nailed it. And so Ari became my agent, and then Ari basically said that, okay, so they had negotiated a contract for me that I wasn't even aware of. and Ari said, we're not going to work yet. We're ripping up the contract. I said, I don't even know what the contract says. What? And he said at the time, he said, it's nothing. It's $8,500 a week. And I thought, don't rip that shit up. $8,500 a week. I'm lucky I make that in a year. It's like, don't rip that up. He said, no. Let me handle this. And so he goes back, and I missed the first 3 days of work because he's like renegotiating with Castle Rock and NBC.
Right.
For the show. They didn't know who I was. They said, what? And so by the time Ari was done, I was the highest paid writer on the show, having never written one word for television.
Damn.
Which doesn't sort of make the people who are there feel that great, nor does it make them really want to welcome you in, engage with you. And so,
right.
So how was that first day of work then?
It was a little, I kept saying, what the fuck, what's with this? Like, so I was like getting the silent treatment. And then finally this one guy said, they're just pissed at you. I said, for what? You're making more than everybody else. I said, well, I'm better than everybody else. He said, well, that may be true, except that you haven't written one word for the show yet.
Right.
And what season was that?
This was season 4. I believe.
Okay.
4
To be
or
honest,
5.
that's when it starts.
That's the one with the pilot that they're doing their show?
When it starts getting good.
Okay.
To come in season 4, never written a word on paper, and he negotiated you to be the highest, like, paid dude.
Not only that,
crazy. That is
the way the show apparently started out was it never would have flown today because season 1, it only got 2 episodes. It came in back then through what they considered late night department, which doesn't even exist. And like it's the late night talk shows was Johnny Carson and Tonight Show, all those things, and they put it in through that department, and so they sat with it for a while. But it got terrible ratings the first couple episodes. The second season, they gave him 4. If this were today, it's canceled after 1.
Right.
But they kept it going. And finally, season 3, they started to give it a full. And by season 4, when I got there, coincidentally, it was...
4 is when it really started getting good. Yeah, it started getting good. 4 and 5, to me, that's when it really started. It really took flight.
And that's when it was getting... full season, which at the time was 22 episodes. Was
the first 2 seasons or 6 episodes?
Total. Total. And they were still trying to find their way to. And then by that time, when they got the full order, they became gold. And Larry, who back in the day couldn't even get an appointment to pitch a show,
right,
is now suddenly the king of the world. And you could just see... I could imagine how he was prior, and you could see the way he was like taking on this whole new persona.
Was he a writer too?
He was a writer on the show.
He was a writer on the show also, Larry David.
Yeah, here's what's interesting. He was never a writer prior to this. So we were so similar in a lot of ways, and then as I got to know him, we were in the same school district in Brooklyn, some years apart. Mm-hmm. And because neither one of us did very well in school, to say the least, we were both shipped off to the same district school psychiatrist to see what was wrong with us at different times.
Now, that being said, I saw in an article that would happen in like 2nd grade, no? Or something like that. You were in 2nd grade.
I had some school
Your dad
issue.
had a thing, and you was like, you basically knew school.
Where are you finding all this
wasn't
stuff?
For you in 2nd grade, no?
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
little early.
And you had
I had
a pretty
some
traumatic experience with your dad and the whole thing.
found this stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't want to know either.